Hello and welcome everybody to yet another episode of Average Giants. Tonight we're going to be interviewing Erik Asmussen, who is the creator of Dodgeball, which is one of my favorite games right now.
Let me stop you there. It's not really an interview. It's more of just a casual, chill chat, play some games, and have some fun.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. An interview is just too stuffy. So, I guess we'll start off with, I guess the big thing. Erik, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I was just saying I got back from this thing called Indie Cabin, and it's a bunch of other game developers. We hang out in a cabin in the woods somewhere and drink a bunch of beer, play a bunch of games, and do a lot of work. And it's just a really fun way to kind of shift gears a bit. It's actually a really productive week, oddly enough. And it's just a great way to, connect with people that, you don't always really get to know your coworkers sometimes, and kind of do deep dives on whatever you're struggling with these days, or plans for the future, and get feedback on a bunch of stuff, and it's an awesome time.
So it's just a bunch of brains together, just sort of brainstorming, or are you guys all working on sort of the same thing?
For the most part, we're all working on different projects. And we all kind of work together in a co-working space. There's a couple of people from like New York and stuff that we don't normally get a chance to see. And yeah, we're all working on our own stuff, but we're all either developers or artists, and we have a lot of the same kind of concerns and problems. And just talking with other people, it can be a really lonely industry if you're working by yourself. So getting a chance to talk with other people is awesome. And they're just really all great people and really hilarious people. And I don't know, it's just a really good time.
So is Disco Dodgeball, or is your 82 apps your job?
Yeah, it's...
So that's your full-time thing now?
Yep, for about 3.5 years.
Wow.
I've been doing this kind of full-time just as a solo situation. I'll hire artists and stuff when I need it. But I don't know why. I like working by myself. I think I was always the person in group projects that I would just want to do everything myself, because I get control over everything. I don't have to run decisions by other people because I'm bad at negotiating. It just annoys me. So, I'll just not in the sense that I'll argue too much. I won't argue at all, and then I won't have any input. So it's just for me, I can just concentrate on getting stuff done. Yeah. If I do things by myself. So I know I could be twice as productive with another person, but I'm really enjoying so far just doing everything solo. So
yeah, I saw on your site too, this is the third game that you've made, or fourth?
Lost a little. So let's see. I think fourth, I'd say. There was one in the middle called Shape Shatter, which was kind of it was my experiment at free to play.
Oh, cool.
But more in a psychology experiment kind of thing, or a challenge to myself to see if I could make a game that was just addictive but meaningless on purpose. A game that you would play but not know why you were playing it. And I was kind of inspired by playing Tiny Tower, because it's a game that just feeds on your compulsion, and it's not evil or anything. But you're not having fun while you're playing it. You're just in this weird trance. And I don't, I studied psychology in school, and it doesn't make any sense. And I wanted to understand it better and see if I could make something similar myself. So the game is called Shape Shatter. It's free for iOS, and it's sold. I had no idea how to market it was the problem. So I'm really happy with how the game turned out. But even as a free game, right? You don't actually get downloads on your own. You have to basically buy users or advertise, and that was my big mistake. That was right around when free games were getting huge.
Yeah, of course.
And also Apple changed the ranking charts so that you don't actually see new releases anymore. So as soon as it launched, it was just completely oblivion, which was very frustrating because it was 4 or 5 months of work. Anyway, so it's a game where you just tap on buttons. They're basically these colorful, googly-eyed shapes. And the more you tap on them, the more you're basically filling bars. So there's bars for tapping on orange shapes and blue shapes and stars and rectangles, and along the way you unlock power-ups that just give you more useless points that don't do anything. But I love watching bars fill up, and I love like collecting points. And I think it worked. Like the people that played it, like the stats are insane. Like the number of like how much they would play it. But I could never find a way to like get enough people to with free games you need like 1 million people to make any kind of money at all, even if you have a good way to monetize. So that was always like a big disappointment. Yes, hi. Anyways, so that was like the forgotten game that's in the mix there. That is out there still.
Interesting.
And if people want to play it, that'd be fun. It is free.
So, when did you start getting into the whole game industry?
Okay, so I was working at a local biotech company doing kind of database admin stuff.
Oh, that sounds riveting.
Yeah, it was actually like a great company and great boss, great coworkers. It was actually, and it was like a little bit of programming. It was a little bit of problem solving and enough like learning that I felt like useful, but I still like there's some part of me that wanted to do more. Like every time I was like telling people what my job was, it was like I was always like feel like bad about it because it's like just like there's nothing interesting about it. I don't know. So that was always in the back of my mind, and I always wanted to be like a programmer. Like I loved doing that as a kid in my spare time, and there really wasn't a chance to do like really hardcore programming. So I saw that this was around the time like the iPad was coming out, and I was really excited about the platform. I thought like, that would be a good place to learn some stuff. And so in my spare time, I started doing iOS development. I started making a couple utility apps first. Not even really thinking games at that point, because that also seemed too much like a crapshoot. Like who gets to build games for a living? Like nobody.
Yeah, they're probably just eating ramen noodles in the corner of their single bedroom apartments.
Yeah, just like a pipe dream. Like it didn't seem like there's any like sustainable way to do any of it, or that I don't know. So anyways, like I did mess around with making one game, and that was New World Colony, and that was inspired by Settlers of Catan and how much I hate it. And I think a lot of people do agree with me. Like,
oh, I definitely do.
It's broken in so many ways, and like it's more about like when you're playing the game, you feel so angry.
Yeah.
You feel like everything you do, every move that another player it feels like cheap and lucky, and when you win, like it doesn't even feel like you really deserved it.
Lucky, yeah.
And like when you lose and you're just like frustrated, filled with rage, and you hate everybody around you. Maybe that's just me.
Well, I tend to focus on those games nowadays, but yeah.
And it just baffled me why a game like that was popular, and like that was just like a weird, it was by a company that's done other stuff, and it has its reasons, right?
Oh, of course.
But like I wanted to improve it, so I'd start making some rule changes, and but eventually I wanted like a rule that you could capture other towns, and that would just wind up like breaking the whole game in different ways. So I started to come up with a rule set from the ground up that allowed basically capturing, and more importantly allowed you to do something meaningful in every turn. So there was no dice rolls, there's no randomness. It was more like chess than Risk, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
And so that was kind of like the inspiration. And I was like, okay, well, I want to learn how to program. I already have a couple like utility apps out. Let me try making a game. And it like pretty much failed when I released it, because the game looked like crap. It didn't have AI. I assumed that people would treat it like a board game and like, oh, let's get our friends together and like play a game of this together. But like that's not how people use these devices at all. So like nobody played it, nobody bought it. But like everything you do, you like learn a little bit about the market. You learn about how to make a game, how to market a game. And so over time, I added these features. I added AI, added online multiplayer, and made the graphics a little better. And over time, it did start building up an audience. Particularly, I could put it on sale for free, and that would generate a couple thousand downloads here and there. Sorry, one second. Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
We know that you got to answer questions on the game too.
Yeah. I just want to tell people in the chat that I'm not like purposely ignoring them. So
The
after like a
Chainmaker?
couple. Yep.
Sorry. I was just
Oh, is that? I wonder if that's the real Cully Dud. Do you think, or?
Quite possibly.
Because they did a video and that was really fun to see. Let's see. So basically after that point, I was like, okay, like I know a little bit about the market. I had some savings built up from the job. I thought like the time I want to invest into the game, I wouldn't have enough time doing it part-time. I wouldn't learn as much I wanted to do. So I decided to give myself a year, take a break from work, and just, you know, see what would happen. And I just felt if I didn't do it then, I would never have a chance to really again to do it. Just the way the market was going, and you know, I'd get like too sucked into the job and just typing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mechanical keyboard tells all.
Yep. Click.
Same here.
And so basically after that, like it didn't, you know, after a year, it was enough to kind of extend the runway. It still wasn't enough to, like, it wasn't even up to, you know, minimum wage level. But I could kind of see the pattern of you make a game, it pulls in some revenue, and you make another game and it like adds onto that revenue stream. Right? So a couple small games could generate a meaningful income, and that was kind of my approach. Like I wasn't going for the grand slam, you know, invest a whole bunch of money and, you know, put a bunch of risk out there. I just wanted to see, like, you know, make a couple small things, like focus on a niche thing and make it happen. And
Interesting.
you know, I think along the way there were things that worked better than others. You know, you can never get everything right out of the bat, but I think my biggest, I think this change to PC is the best move I've ever made. I think I left iOS, if anything, a little too late. I spent like kind of a year on a game that was Pwn, that like I'm happy with, but like again, never really took off, and I think it's just like the mobile market, it's too saturated at this point.
Yeah, and that's
with,
the
like,
battle
free
hacking,
stuff.
I believe, right? The Pwn?
Sorry?
That was the battle hacking
Yep,
game,
that's right.
obviously? Yeah. That one looked interesting.
And you know, looking back, there's things I'd change about it to make it better. But at this point, it's like, you know, whatever. It's kind of a lost cause. I'm on to better things. Learn the lesson and move on. And I think with PC, like, it's just so refreshing to have an audience of people that are interested in the games you're making, right? Like, they're not just, you know, there's a ton of games coming out, like, but like the audience is people that like will invest more than 5 minutes in a game.
Definitely.
Which means you don't need a design for like all these other, you know, your game design can be a little more, I don't know, just different, right? Like in a way that like you can make something that's a deeper experience.
I
and
feel
these days on iOS you really can't.
a lot of times on the iOS, it feels to me a lot like what the gaming industry went through in like the early and mid 80s. And that it's just kind of everybody making the same thing and trying to see what'll be the big money pot by the end of it. And so
it's so weird.
Huge forest.
Is a good example of that King right now?
Yeah, so like...
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
That's right. If you look at the top grossing games on iOS, and that's really what like solidified the decision for me, it's like all the same game. It's all the same, like either Clash of Clans clone or for a while it was like a Farmville clone.
Yeah.
And then there's also like makeover simulators and stuff like that. Like there's very few like
Interesting,
you know,
and
original games that are making.
I mean,
money.
I understand why they do that. Is because they know it's just like with the car market right now. Is that they know that it's a sure bet. What I've learned with most markets is that, you know, it's easier just to make a generic clone of another item than to actually make something special, because if you make something too special, then you get into the niche market.
Yeah.
The
You can't
niche
explain
market
it to
is
people.
kind of dangerous because it's literally a crapshoot on it, whether it does well or not.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Particularly if you're going to
about
invest
the
a bunch of
mid-80s.
money on it, it's so much safer with something that's known and proven.
Yes, exactly.
Hence you get the AAA industry versus the indie industry, because we get to try all the new mechanics and all that fun stuff.
So basically what's happening is the AAA studios are kind of consolidating, and going for bigger and bigger budgets of, again, kind of similar things.
Safe bets.
The mid-sized companies are getting like destroyed. Over and over, you're seeing like these layoffs, particularly in Boston area, like
even
the BioShock company, right? Like
Frictional, or not Frictional, Irrational, and THQ, THQ a couple of years ago, just because what is it? Oh my God, Dark Riders, the sequel didn't make enough.
Right. And so what's happening is so the mid-sized companies are disappearing, but you're seeing kind of, and it is also really hard as a tiny indie because a lot of people are making games, but almost like mid-sized indies are starting to band together and make bigger companies and make bigger games. And, they've had the funds now to invest for it. Yeah,
totally.
And so hopefully I can survive within that space, but that's kind of what's happening is like a hollowing out of the middle. But yeah, as an indie, if you look at something like Cannonball, great game in its time, it would obviously it started the endless runner genre, right? So it's unfair to compare it to its predecessors that inspired. But something like that wouldn't even be a drop in the bucket today.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so it's the people that had these earlier successes are now moving up to bigger and better projects. So.
Now, when did the concept for Disco Dodgeball go into your head?
I think while I was making Pwn, the hacking game, I don't know exactly when, but I think I wanted to learn Unity. That's this development environment I'm using now, and that's what everyone around me uses. And it had been every day convincing me to use, and I finally got into that. Amazing decision. And so I love multiplayer games. Almost all my games are multiplayer because that's what I grew up playing, and I like that you don't need a ton of content in that sense. The content just emerges from other people playing. It's the kind of thing you can play over and over again. So that's definitely the kind of stuff I like building. And I just thought there was no first-person dodgeball game. I love projectile warfare.
Definitely.
And this is the simplest expression of projectile warfare. I don't need expensive gun models or anything. And yeah, it hadn't been done, and I thought I could kind of take it in a really crazy way, theme-wise, to make it more interesting. So that was pretty much the start of it, and then just experimenting around with the physics, I decided to add kind of roller skates onto the model, and that really clicked with the dodgeball mechanic. Because the big problem with dodgeball is if you're across from someone and you can move very, very rapidly, it's impossible to hit someone. They'll just strafe it every time. So if you have a little bit of inertia going forward, it actually makes it easier to hit someone. You have a little more of that tracking their position and aiming in front of them,
being able to
would
kind of
not
lead
work
them.
if they're just walking on feet.
Interesting.
So once I added that, everything just started clicking, and the robots are there because I didn't want to animate a human, because again, I gotta scope it towards what a one-person team can do.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to animate stuff. I actually removed the arms from the robot model that I had built for this game. So the new one, the one you're not seeing now, because I was animation, it someday maybe, but it doesn't need it, and if anything, it'll make it look worse, right? So if you try to compete with the bigger studios on certain things, you're gonna lose. I'm not gonna go for realistic environments because I'll never be able to match the fidelity of what those studios are putting out. And so you do something kind of more simple and at this point extremely simple. Hopefully it'll look better than this in the end. But
well, at this point I can honestly say that I think people are almost begging for quality over quantity right now.
Yeah, I like the focus that's actually been afforded to the gameplay because of everything else. The gameplay is really smooth, nice, responsive. You're actually thinking about things like the best ways to lead your targets kind of thing. Physics of the balls, give that whole physics kind of projectile warfare.
Right, I don't think better visuals will dramatically improve the game. And I know a lot of people say this, but it's you got to focus on the game part first.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the graphics right now, in my honest opinion, are perfect for this. Like, I don't see a reason to really change anything because you got the lights going along with the music, which is awesome, and you got the characters. It's actually kind of nice because you know where the hitbox is because they are the hitbox.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like having a game where you shoot at a person and you somehow hit them for some reason or don't hit them for even a weirder reason.
Yeah. I think there's, so I'm playing around with the Steam version in progress right now. There's some tweaks, so it's got the new robot models, and I spent some time on some arenas to make them look better. And I think it does make a difference. Like, it feels, when you hit the new bot model, it feels like you're breaking something expensive, which is always fun.
Is there like breaking animation or something, or
no? They don't. So eventually, I want to add gears and bolts that explode out of the model. So it's the same explosion. But just the fact that you see this thing running around and it looks a little bit more like a robot, like, does in some part of the back of your brain make a difference. But
yeah,
the difference is, like, I don't need to make it look like a robot from Deus Ex or something, like some it's just not gonna work. And it would never be as good, and therefore people would just say, well, this robot looks crappy, right? So it's one of those things where more is actually less.
Yeah, because eventually you get to that.
Getting comparisons that aren't fair.
You get to the uncanny valley at like a certain point,
that too.
Right?
Now, I got a question for you when it comes to the online multiplayer. Like, this game is basically, it starts with online multiplayer, and then you can do offline if you so choose to. And I'm just wondering, like, what do you think when it comes to, what's your opinion on the people that basically are refusing to do online multiplayer? We know a couple games, I'm not going to mention them, but they are incredibly fun games, but they still are basically flat out saying we're not going to be doing online multiplayer at all.
I think it depends on the game. I mean, so I loved Far Cry 3.
Did not like
I played
multiplayer.
Out of it. I beat the whole game, and that was a great example of a game with great projectile warfare.
Yep.
Like, I just used the bow, and I didn't really care about the main story. I just go to the bases, right, and just sneak and try to get a whole base out without being detected. But I never wanted to play it online. I didn't even try.
It's a perfect example that you brought up, because the online was not good for it.
Yeah,
it did not lend
and
itself well.
By the other token, I think that's not a phrase. On the other hand, something like Call of Duty, like, I don't care about single player. The thing is, they need a single player to be able to sell another copy, right? Like, otherwise it would just be multiplayer. But that's a game where, like, they don't. It's not about single player, and the single player to me was always incredibly boring. And I don't think even the last two games I finished that campaign. I was just like, what am I doing? I'm just so bored. With Far Cry, like, when I would beat a base, I would want to replay it. Like, the experience of going through a level felt fun, whereas in Call of Duty, it was like just a slog. Like, I'd get through something, like, I never want to do that again. But that was like every part of the game. I was like, I'm so glad that's over. But then I played like a ton of the multiplayer, right? So I think it's okay that some games just focus on like one thing that's good and do that. Like a campaign for Disco Dodgeball wouldn't make any sense.
That'd be hilarious.
And I think there's some games where like it's this really annoying thing where like a game reviewer will say, "Oh, it doesn't have online multiplayer, so minus 10 Metacritic points or something."
Yeah.
And it's like an unfair comparison, but it's just that's the standard that AAA games are held to, and I think that's one reason why they are consolidating, because budgets have to get bigger and bigger, and why mid studios can't compete. And I actually think it'd be pretty healthy if someone somewhere at these studios was like, "No, this is only online or only single player." Even if you could make an argument that multiplayer would work. I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion. I know, like, sometimes it's easy to say, "Oh, this would be so great with multiplayer," but it's a hard thing to get right.
That being said, one of the things I found interesting actually in this game, in the Twitterverse and that kind of thing, is how much there is like tournament play for a game that's still like early in development. Like, you're just got your green light, so we're talking about early access maybe soon, but even though you're still in the development stage, you're getting so much tournament play. So I was wondering, like, while it's in development, are you planning to utilize on that at all? Maybe, like, bring in features for the tournament play?
Yeah, so one of the big things I'm doing in the next version is the ability to like control when the rounds start and stop. Because one thing I found when someone was like live streaming a tournament, it'd be really hard to coordinate. Like, okay, the round like automatically started, but this isn't the start. Like, wait until I give the signal. And just like very confusing.
Yeah.
So now the whoever is the host can basically has a big button that says like start the next match. And I think something like that, you know, at very basic level is important for that kind of thing. So it's in the back of my mind. I would love to do, I think with more bot customization, then you can do kind of more team style. You can get everyone to dress up the same.
Yeah, that would be good.
And, you know, I think in-game too, you know, support for clans or something. And I think just being on Steam will help people connect with friends a little easier and organize that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's, I definitely want to encourage that. I was watching the Panzer's tournament that he recorded, and it's like it's so fun to watch. It's so fun to like hear the commentary, and watch the competitive level play. Like particularly with this tournament, like it was all these amazing players fighting each other, and it was just really fun to see. And I think it might actually be good because you know, League of Legends is huge, right? And they're doing everything right, so it's hard to point to them as something that I wouldn't do. But like, I don't play it, and then when I watch the videos, I have no idea what's going on, and it makes it not fun to like watch.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I know like there's the tens of millions of players like are totally fine with that.
I totally don't play it.
I like that this game is, you know what's happening, and like anybody could like try casting a tournament and just like make it up and do like a totally fine job.
Yeah.
So it might be a nice like entry point for that kind of stuff, which is obviously just getting bigger and bigger these days.
It does definitely translate like that. Like it's very, very intuitive.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that person A hit person B with the ball, and then it says like what kind of kill it was, and
yeah.
So you only need to know like basic minimum amount of the game to be able to cast. And I don't know, I think that's fun and it could maybe help it out long term because I just it's so fun to see, and I'd love to be able to tap into that. One problem is in the last game I built, the Pwn game, like I wanted it to be like an esport for hacking. I went in knowing knowing that iOS games are not used in competitive play. So I knew that was a big obstacle, but it was just like, it was totally a pipe dream. Like never happened, didn't even close. Never got the audience it needed for that. So I'm kind of in that same place where like I could see it working really well, but I won't really know if it's gonna work until it actually starts working. So, but already like you said, there's tournaments happening. Some of them are being organized by people like not like that I don't know about or that I don't really help. You know, it's just like organic stuff, which is awesome to see.
It's been really interesting to see this game kind of develop itself online, because it is developing its own kind of cult following.
Yeah. And that's, I think, maybe the best thing that I'm seeing is when you're building a game, you can't possibly do all the outreach yourself. Like, if you talk about the game to someone, that's one person you've told. But if that person then tells other people, and then so on and so on, like that's how a game gets big, is by people spreading the word for you. And if you have to like grind for every bit of like coverage and every player, like it's just never going to take off. And I think this game is totally at that point where people are just playing it and spreading the word on their own. Like I mentioned with the Markiplier video, I didn't know he existed, and like I'm out of touch with a lot of stuff on YouTube, right? So I know that's silly, but and I didn't like contact him. I didn't ask him to play it. I didn't know he was gonna play it. I just saw my Twitter feed blow up. I'm like, oh, this guy is pretty big. And so that's a good sign of like stuff happening like outside of your field of view.
Yeah, completely.
That's how you know like things are kind of like happening for a game. Do you guys want to switch to a free-for-all after this?
Yeah,
sure.
we can totally do
after
that.
this game, sure, I'll switch it over.
Yeah, to have the creator of the game wants to get his balls bloody with everybody.
I was gonna have some. Holy God.
I had another question. Since I know you just got it on Steam Greenlight, and on your website, the game right now is $5 with the $10 marked out. Is that a deal that's like a timed thing?
Yeah, so that's the beta price, and I'm gonna probably, I guess, as soon as the game goes live, I'll shut that off and replace it with a single purchase for like for the early access price. So my plan is, right now it's $5 for 2 copies. Once it goes on early access, it will be $10 for 1 copy, and I'll probably have a 4-pack as well that'll probably price it maybe $30 or something.
That would be a very good idea, actually, because even in the Markiplier video, he says about how this game's awesome, I can't wait to play it with people, so kind of forcing, not forcing that, but giving people reasons to buy more than 1 copy is definitely going to be good.
Yeah. And my hope with those 2 Steam keys is that, you know, everyone that bought the game can then immediately get a friend in. And so it doubles the player base overnight, gets a bunch of people talking about it, and gets, like, if hopefully someone has more than 1 friend, so they'll say, you know, I'll give friend A 1 copy, and then friend B, like, we'll split it or something. And so my hope is it'll lead to just more sales overall.
Yeah. So $10 is going to be the Steam price once it does go live?
Yes, and so I'm gonna do something with the launch price. So, you know, games get a launch discount.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is kind of set up some metrics around like the hype the game is getting, and I'm gonna like release more details about that a little later on. But basically, it's things that people can do in measurable ways that will affect the launch discount. And so I'll kind of have different like tiers of these statistics, and when it reaches certain levels, then like the launch discount will be bumped up, and so it'll lead up to a 25% discount. The idea is there to, like, you know, get people involved pre-launch, get people excited talking about it, and then it's kind of a way that, you know, if people are playing the game now and excited about it, they can kind of give back almost and help spread the word. So I'm going to be releasing more info about that in the next couple weeks.
Oh, that's what my question was going to be. How well did the tactic work when you gave away, what was it, 4,000 keys in a weekend?
So that was over a couple. It might have been 4,000 that one thing. So that was.
I think it was
great.
the first big thing.
Yeah. That was huge. So that was on Reddit. I just went to, I think, Random Acts of Gaming, and just said, "Oh, I'm building this game, giving out keys. Here's a trailer. Check it out." And it became a really popular post. And I think the spreadsheet got shared outside of the subreddit, which is fine because it led to a ton of greenlight votes and I think a ton of awareness. And that might have been its first like really big boost of awareness. And I don't really see that as lost revenue because, you know, what percent of those would have actually gone and bought the game? Who knows? And then without it, nobody would have known about the game anyways. So
yeah, definitely.
Right, it's like a and plus with the multiplayer. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Keep going.
With a multiplayer game, there's value to each player outside of just what they pay for the game, right? Like them being in the game adds value to the whole ecosystem because now there's people to play against.
Yeah.
And so it never really felt to me that it was like a money being spent. It's almost like just an investment.
Definitely.
And in a way, like, you know, and even now, like, the player base like comes and goes. Like right now, that there weren't people on until we were streaming just now. But there's enough people that are aware of the game that when you say you're streaming, now we have like a full room of people, right? So
yeah, indeed.
So I think you know, once it launches on Steam, hopefully the community will be large enough to sustain itself and have like a bunch of people online all the time. Yeah, you know, we'll see how long it goes.
It's actually kind of funny when I first found out about this game. I actually literally only saw the name and a screenshot. That's all it took for me to win me over.
Just the title.
And then lucky for me that that you followed me and then let me take a look at the game itself. So that it was that was within a day of that happening. So
It is a pretty epic title, to be honest, too.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at a game that's called Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball.
I hope so.
I even had my wife and my friend getting interested in what it is. And they're not gamers at all, so there's that.
That's good. So I kind of took a page from the Dodgeball playbook there. So they're a developer that works in Boston. They made the base jumping game Ah.
Oh, yeah.
And they just released Drunken Robot Pornography, right? So they're big on like crazy attention-getting names, and I figured, you know, for lack of a better name, this
what you should do. What you should do is that if you have people that are supporting or that are like doing the pre-purchases, you should give them a DLC call, making it so it's like Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball Turbo.
Yeah.
Because anything with turbo in the name, people are going to buy it in a second.
That's a great point. I'll make a deluxe edition.
Yeah, deluxe edition.
So, Giant, the first time that I played this with him on one of his streams, he told me this, and I just totally want to back it up here. But the guy that does all the announcing, where did you find him?
I just found him on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
So I was kind of like half joking, saying like I want a monster truck announcer for the game or for the trailer, and I just did like some cursory YouTube search and found this guy, Bob Oakman, and the video is amazing. I mean, you can search him too. Like he has one video pops up, and just like the you know, when he opens his mouth, it's just like gold. It's so good. But I didn't take the initiative to like reach out to him, and I was just like, well, you know, who knows if he's still in business. Like, I think that like one link on his YouTube video like didn't go anywhere, so I was like, oh, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and I just kind of gave it up. And then about the time I was creating the trailer, a bunch of the I created a trailer and sent it around to a bunch of other, you know, the developers that I work with, and they were all like, like. And I'd spent a bunch of time on this, like doing all the gameplay capture and like syncing it to the music really well. And
oh yeah, totally.
But like they were just like, this is like totally boring, and they were completely correct. And that's one really huge value of working with people that can give you honest feedback.
Honest advice.
And so after that point, like they were like you should actually just, you know, get that monster truck announcer. And one of them kind of helped me find the guy. So that was kind of the story behind it, and it, I think, worked out pretty well because the trailer's gotten a lot of attention, and I think if I send that to people, they'll get interested in the game at a like very easily.
Yeah. Oh, it's an epic trailer.
If you don't have that trailer, it's a lot harder to do that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. First of three.
Yeah, I figured they wanted elimination, so we got elimination.
Oh, I see.
It's funny. Are we stuck?
Kinda looks like it.
Yeah, do you want to reset the match?
Yes, I will. Server reset match.
Alright.
I'm camping. It's not working.
Hear that? Everybody got Giant.
No, I was done immediately anyways.
Oh, nice catch. That was epic.
I was in a team elimination tournament that was done by Lucasra.
Yeah.
Oh man, my team sucked so bad.
Oh, was that like the very first one?
Yeah, that was the first one that we did.
So sorry, this round is kind of screwing up. I guess FFA Limbs had some issues.
It's okay.
I'm seeing round lost, and I don't know if is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I'm seeing that too.
So we can switch to Team Elim or just like try a different game mode, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah, no, either way, I'm good.
I'm trying to score 1.
Yeah,
let's see if that works. Well, the good thing about our playing chats is that they've also been good for the developers to learn what could potentially be useful in their games.
They've gotten some good player feedback, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's like
I've gotten a ton of feedback from while playing it on stream, or just from, you know, users sending me notes. A bunch of the game modes are kind of from user suggestion.
Mm-hmm. What have been some of the greatest struggles in developing Disco Dodgeball?
So I guess PR is always a problem. It's got some good momentum now, but at the beginning, like, where like, you know, nobody's talking about it, and it feels like that's like the greatest fear as a developer when like nobody cares. It's just like it's hard to stay. I mean, you're still motivated to do it, but you just question a lot. You question, like, you know, you look at other developers and like they just like put a tweet out and they get an article in Polygon, right?
Yeah.
It's frustrating when you see that happening, and you're like, why is nobody talking about me? Like, is my game gonna become a failure because I can't, like, because I'm not already a superstar, or I can't get people like talking about it? Damn, this elimination is kind of breaking. I wonder if it's switching from another mode.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go to a what do we do? Let's do free-for-all score battle.
Sure. Yeah, that can work. I think it's elimination that's the problem.
Yeah, we'll do that. Free-for-all score battle. Oof. And then hopefully that... Did you just get, like, thrown out of the...
5,000 is gonna take a while.
Yep.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Be an epic battle. So, like, that's hard. Technically, AI was tricky. There's a really good package that does basic pathfinding, but it doesn't account for this kind of arena where there's jumps and ledges. You know, it's great if you have like just a flat room.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Corridors and stuff, but like it's not at all prepared to handle something like this. So I had to really dig into that and break it apart and figure out ways to get the bots to do what I wanted them to do in certain situations. That took a while and a lot of tweaking, but it's such a funny thing where the first time... Usually people are a lot nicer in chat.
Yeah.
I'm going to add a kick function before it goes live. I think that's going to be important. So it doesn't like become poisonous. Like
I know at one point I don't really like this, but it's worth mentioning. There was actually a group of a few people who they called themselves a Disco Dodgeball clan.
Yeah.
And they were actually being fairly abusive. Which is kind of strange.
Yeah, that happened like right at the beginning, and that was definitely like the only time I'd seen that. Yeah. And so I actually like I had either like through Reddit or like a Steam group or something, like I like, you know, not like in a sneaky way, but like I found out who they were and I just messaged one of them. It was like, hey, like, you know, do you mind like not doing this? Some people are feeling you know, uncomfortable or just being abused, and I don't like, it might hurt the game because it might scare people away. And so I wasn't like trying to drop the hammer down. I was just saying like, you know, hey, you know, don't do that. And they were like, the guy was like, oh, I'm so sorry, like we got carried away. I don't know what I was doing, and I feel really bad about it. Like,
you're like, interesting. I seriously thought it was Call of Duty. I still thought it was Call of Duty.
And so I think, you know,
maybe a way to implement like oh jeez, like a word filter or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that, but I think like, you know, people will find a way around it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some obvious targets that I can filter out, but that maybe if you type them, then like you can't play for half an hour or something. I don't know.
Also, like a kick ban system.
Yeah, I think just like if there's a system for self-enforcement, and like if there's just a way that people know that they're being like, that they can't like get away with it, or that people don't enjoy that, like it I don't know, like it's worked great so far, but I'm terrified that when the community starts getting bigger, then it'll just get out of control, right? Like the poisonous people will take over the good people, and then once you have that, it's really hard to come back from that. So I'm scared that that's going to happen, because it's a really hard problem, and like some communities, you know, some very big games with big budgets can't solve that problem. It's not an easy one to solve. So part of me is hoping that because the game is kind of like a lightweight shooter, right? Like your robots with mustaches and googly eyes. Yeah. Like I don't think people are going to get too upset while they're playing, but and angry and verbally abusive. But
a good example was what just happened in, like, even in this match. One person says, vulgar word, blah 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 blah, and then everybody was like, hey, can you settle down, please?
Yeah,
can you settle down? So,
and then that person left the match and was just like, but they were like, oops, or something, and then maybe they felt bad about it and left, right? Like, that's perfect. And then, like, they're not going to do that again.
Exactly,
and, like,
but they're going to come back and play.
Judiciary or anything, or tribunal or whatever.
Yeah. My wife
so
loves the tribunal. It's League of Legends.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. That's definitely something I'm really worried about. In terms of just, how to solve it if it comes up. Same with cheating.
Have you found anybody that's managed to exploit? Not exploit, because I know that a bunch of people that have found exploits, you've been really cool to them.
I can't imagine that aimbot would be easy to use in this game.
That's a good point. It's not just like looking for hitboxes, it's kind of projecting in front of them.
Yeah.
But so actually there was, I saw someone post a video that showed them basically speed hacking. So they'd found a way to like speed up their bot and just like zooming around the whole arena. And they'd kind of posed it as a joke, like they weren't like very serious about it. But I basically like contacted them, like, and it wasn't like mad. I was just like, I would love to know how you did that, because like I would like to try and stop that. Like the Steam launch coming up, and like I gave them like some keys to the game, like in exchange for like helping me out. And then they told me, they gave me a ton of very useful information on how to counteract that. And so there's some things I can add to the game that checks for that. Would maybe like, again, just kick someone for half an hour or something if they're using a speed hack. I don't think people really care again. Like I'm hoping it's not quite the target as Call of Duty, but I'm sure some people will come in like, oh, this is fun. I get to mess with some people for a while. Yeah. And then they'll leave, but meanwhile, the people in that room would get frustrated and maybe not play again. So I'd still like to minimize it. And I think the key is if people know that that there's enforcement of it, then they won't try it, right? Like if someone's really, really dedicated to cheat, like they'll find a way. Like people can cheat at games with really intense anti-cheat measures, and they have to evolve all the time. Like week to week, you have to rebuild your anti-cheat system. And like that's obviously not going to work for me.
But again, like both of your basic mechanics kind of work against that. Kind of like Tribes. What made Tribes really popular way back in the day was the fact that, like aimbot didn't work well on it because it was a projectile. It had actual trajectories, and the players had the skating mechanic, which is a lot like the rollerblades in here.
Yep, and that's a lot harder for a computer to handle. So I think, and speed hacks are actually pretty easy to detect because you just look at position changes relative to world time.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, that's obvious. Aimbot's a lot harder to catch. But there's also things, people could just like nerf or like maybe walk into a room and just like hit a button and like everybody dies because they packed in the code with that. Like right now the game is not run on a main server. It's run on a client server, so there's really no way to trust that. So my hope is the game will get big enough to warrant like, and with funding, like help support like the creation of official servers, and then I can kind of do more controlled anti-cheat stuff. But that's I think a problem I'm going to have to solve when it starts happening. Do what I can to anticipate it, but solve it later. And, it's a funny set of problems because I've never made a game where that's a problem. But it's kind of like a good problem to have because it means a ton of people are playing your game. But on the other hand, it can also like destroy your game, right? Like if people are like, oh, everyone's mean and cheating on this game, then they just won't play it. That sucks. And I think that would also just make me feel really angry that I built this game and if it were ruined by just jerks, that would make me feel really upset.
Yeah, I don't think you have too much to worry about, though it is good to see how much thought and planning you put into the what is it? The worst case scenario almost, like the prevention of the hurricane.
Yeah. And I think the really great thing about Steam is that you can update things really quickly. So if I see like something happening that like, oh, this is a huge problem, then I can just put an update out, and like within the day it'll be live. Whereas on iOS it's like 2 weeks for an update to go live.
Yeah.
And even Humble Bundle, it's sometimes it's like a day or two for an update, and here it's like instant. So I think I can be in the position to be on the front lines and catch stuff pretty rapidly.